Now we're going to look at how to send push notifications through, and this is done outside of Windows 8 apps. In the specific demo we're going to use, I'm going to use a .NET 4.5 console application. But you can use any platform. These are all based on open standards. It's just an HTTP call. So the steps we need to go through is that we need to authenticate with WNS using OAuth, which is, if you've never done OAuth before, this is very simple. You just make a call, you get a token back, and you use that token on subsequent requests. Once we've authenticated, we send the push notification through to the associated device or devices. In our example, we've only got one device, but as I mentioned before, we could have multiple devices that all need notifications. So in terms of the actual notification, we issue a request to this specific URL, and we pass in the SID and the secret that we got before. So if you remember when we registered the application on live.com, those were the two values we had in return. When we make that call, if it's successful, we'll get a token back. When it's time to do the signaling, we prepare the XML that we want to send. And to reiterate, this is exactly the same XML as we would pass if we were doing local notifications. We then set a request header to the notification type that you want. And all three notification types are represented here. So we're going to pass through WNS toast, but we could pass through WNS tile or WNS badge. And these are done through the XWNS type headers. We then make the request. If it's successful, or rather if WNS has received the notification and we get an HTTP 200 code back, we need to look in the XWNS notification status header. Now this is quite unusual in that our notification state comes back in the headers rather than in the body of the request. Let's look at a demo. As I mentioned in this demonstration, we're going to use a .NET 4.5 console application. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project, and rather than a Windows Store app, I'm going to create a normal console app. I'm going to select the .NET Framework 4.5, primarily because I want access to the task parallel library. I'm going to call my new project WNS Signal. So over in the actual project, I'm going to set up a few basic things. First thing I'm going to do is in the finally, if I've got the debugger attached, I'm going to read a line from the console. So this will mean that when I run it from within the Visual Studio environment, the console will remain on the screen. I'm going to do a console.writeLine of the exception. And in here is where we're going to do our actual work. So the two things we need to do are authenticate and make the signal. Oops. And I'm going to create two methods for doing both of those. Now actually these methods are going to return back some asynchronous bits and pieces. So I'm actually going to call this one authenticate async and signal async. This one will return a task, and this one is going to return back a task with a class that we're going to build called WNS authentication. Now I can't use the await keyword inside of the entry point for the app, so I'm going to have to grab these through as actual tasks and wait. Now in terms of using the wait method inside of Windows 8 apps, it's not a very good idea. We can do it here because we're under a lot of control as to which threads we have, but when you're in a Windows 8 app, using wait in this way blocks the threads and is actually a very dangerous thing to do. So we'll create our new WNS authentication class. And the only thing we're really interested in here is the token that comes back from the JSON, but I'll show you what this JSON looks like as we go. The other thing we're going to need to do is work with JSON, and by far the easiest way to do that in normal .NET applications and in Windows 8 applications is to use the JSON.NET library. There is WinJSON support in WinRT, but JSON.NET is ever so much better.